Every trader wants the perfect strategy, the magic setup, the hidden indicator, the so-called holy grail. But here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Strategy doesn't blow up your account, you do. And if that stings, good. Because what I'm about to tell you might just be the most important lesson you'll ever hear about trading. The reason you keep losing isn't because your system is broken. It isn't because you don't know enough about charts. It's because the one skill that truly decides your future in the markets is the one most traders ignore: discipline. And let me be brutally honest with you. If you don't master discipline, even the best strategy in the world will turn to dust in your hands. But if you do master discipline, even the simplest setup can make you consistently profitable. Before we get deep into this, pause for a second. Do me a favor. Drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from. I love seeing traders from every part of the world. And while you're here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this, because what we're about to uncover can change the way you trade forever. Now let's get real. Imagine two traders. Trader A has the most advanced strategy money can buy. He spent thousands of dollars on courses, bought every premium indicator, and even has access to private insider groups. Trader B, on the other hand, uses nothing fancy. A simple moving average crossover, maybe a basic breakout pattern. Nothing special, nothing flashy. If you were betting money on who would succeed, most people would put their chips on Trader A. But here's the twist. More often than not, Trader B ends up profitable, consistent, and stress-free, while Trader A burns out and loses big. Why? Because Trader B has something Trader A doesn't: discipline. And this is where most people misunderstand trading. They think strategies are the holy grail. They think, if I can just find the right setup, the right system, the perfect combination of indicators, I'll win. But that's like believing the sharpest sword will make you a great warrior. No, it's the discipline, the training, the mental resilience, and the ability to follow through under pressure that makes the difference. The sword is only as powerful as the hand that wields it. Here's the brutal truth. The market doesn't care about your strategy. The market doesn't reward brilliance, it rewards discipline. You can have a strategy with a 70% win rate and still blow up if you don't have discipline. Conversely, you can have a strategy with a 40% win rate and still grow your account if you execute with iron discipline. That's the paradox most traders never understand until they've lost enough money to finally listen. Think about this. How many times have you broken your own rules? You said you'd risk only 1% per trade, but when you saw that setup that looked perfect, you went in with 5%. You said you'd stick to your stop loss, but when price came close, you moved it just a little lower, only to watch the market slice right through it. You said you'd take profits at your target, but when greed whispered in your ear, you held on and watched your green trade turn red. If you're honest, you've done this more times than you'd like to admit. And that right there proves my point. It's not strategy. It's discipline. Now, let's zoom in on the psychology of why discipline is so hard. Humans are wired for comfort, for short-term pleasure, for avoiding pain. Trading is the opposite. Trading demands that you feel discomfort, that you accept uncertainty, that you sit with boredom, that you do the opposite of what your emotions scream at you to do. That's why trading feels like a battle with yourself, because it is. Every trade isn't just about charts, it's about whether you can control fear, greed, impatience, and ego long enough to let your edge play out. And this is where discipline becomes the invisible edge. You can't buy it. You can't download it. You can't borrow it from someone else. Discipline is built. Slowly. Through repetition, through pain, through holding yourself accountable when no one else is watching. Discipline is the skill that separates the 90% who lose from the 10% who win. Not because their strategies are better, but because their ability to execute consistently is unshakable. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're in a casino, but this time the odds are flipped. You've got a system that gives you a 55% chance of winning each bet. Not flashy, not huge, but consistent. If you just stick to the rules and let it play out over hundreds of bets, you'll walk away profitable. But here's the problem. Most traders act like gamblers. They double down when they lose, they chase when they feel desperate, they break rules when they get emotional. And so, even with an edge, they lose. But the disciplined trader? He sticks to his plan. He takes small losses without blinking. He doesn't get seduced by greed, and he lets the numbers play out. In the end, he wins, not because he's smarter, but because he's disciplined. This is why I say, discipline beats strategy every single time. A disciplined trader with an average system will outperform an undisciplined trader with the best system. Every single time. Because discipline is what makes a strategy come alive. Without it, even the best setups collapse under the weight of emotional sabotage. And I want you to feel the weight of this truth, because if you get this, it could save you years of frustration. It could save you from hopping from strategy to strategy, always thinking the next one will be the one. It could save you from the endless cycle of hope and despair. When you realize that discipline is the missing link, suddenly everything changes. You stop obsessing over the Holy Grail, and you start focusing on building the one thing that truly matters: yourself. So let me end this first part with a challenge. The next time you feel tempted to break your rules, pause. Don't ask yourself, is this trade good? Ask yourself, am I being disciplined? Because in the long run, it's not the market that decides your success, it's your discipline. And remember, this is just the beginning of our deep dive into why discipline beats strategy every time in trading. In the next section, we're going to peel back even more layers, exploring why even seasoned professionals fall victim to emotional traps, and how you can start training your mind to resist them. But before we continue, let me remind you, if this resonates with you so far, drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from, smash that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this journey. Share this with another trader who needs to hear it, because the truth we're uncovering here is rare, and it can change the way you trade forever. If you've been trading for more than a few weeks, you already know this. The hardest part of trading isn't the charts, it's yourself. You can master every candlestick pattern, memorize every technical indicator, and still find yourself breaking your own rules. Why? Because discipline isn't destroyed by the market, it's hijacked by your mind. Think back to the last time you moved a stop loss. You knew where it should be. You placed it there for a reason. But when price crept close, something inside you whispered, just give it a little more room. It'll bounce back. And for a moment, that voice felt reasonable. It felt safe. But what happened next? The market did what it always does. It pushed further, slicing through your adjusted stop, turning a small, manageable loss into something much bigger. You didn't lose because your strategy was wrong. You lost because your mind convinced you to break your own discipline. This is the war every trader fights. A war not against the market, but against the primal wiring of their own brain. Let's break it down. Your brain evolved for survival, not for trading. In the wild, fear kept you alive. Greed pushed you to gather more resources when food was scarce. Impatience forced you to act quickly when threats appeared. Ego helped you fight for status in the tribe. These instincts worked when survival was on the line. But in trading, these same instincts sabotage you. Fear makes you cut winners too early. Greed makes you hold losers too long. Impatience makes you jump into setups that aren't ready. Ego makes you double down to prove you're right. The exact instincts that once kept us alive are the ones that drain our accounts. And here's the cruel twist. The market is a perfect mirror. It reflects every weakness you try to hide. Are you greedy? The market will expose it. Fearful? The market will find it. Impatient? The market will punish you for it. That's why so many traders describe trading as the most brutally honest teacher in the world. Because you can't fake discipline. You either have it or you don't. Let's look at a real example. Picture a trader who promises himself he'll risk no more than 1% of his account per trade. He writes it down. He believes it. And for a while, he sticks to it. But then, after 3 losses in a row, frustration creeps in. That voice again. You need to make it back. Just increase your size a little. One big winner, and you're back on track. He listens. He breaks his rule. And sure enough, the very next trade is a loser. Not only is his account smaller, but his self-respect is shattered. He doesn't trust himself anymore. That's the real damage of breaking discipline. It's not just financial, it's psychological. Because once you start lying to yourself, you create a crack in your identity as a trader. And the market will widen that crack every single time until your discipline collapses completely. This is why trading feels so painful. It's not just about money. It's about fighting parts of yourself you didn't even know existed. It's about confronting greed you thought you could control. It's about watching your ego unravel when the market proves you wrong. It's about sitting in boredom when every cell in your body wants action. Trading forces you to sit with yourself in ways most people never do. And here's the kicker. This battle never ends. Even professionals with years of experience still feel fear, greed, impatience, and ego. The difference is, They've built systems of discipline strong enough to withstand those emotions. They don't eliminate the emotions, they learn not to act on them. That's the real secret. But most traders, they think discipline will just happen. They believe that one day, after enough losses, they'll magically become disciplined. It doesn't work that way. Discipline isn't a gift you stumble upon. It's a skill you train, like a muscle. And if you don't train it, your mind will keep hijacking your trades. Let me ask you something. How many strategies have you tested? How many indicators have you downloaded? How many YouTube videos have you watched searching for the secret setup? And yet, with all that knowledge, are you really trading better? Or are you still breaking your rules, still chasing losses, still getting pulled around by your emotions? If so, then you already know the answer. The enemy isn't your lack of strategy. It's your lack of discipline. And it gets even deeper. Because discipline is more than just following rules. It's about identity. When you break your rules, you're not just hurting your account, you're hurting your relationship with yourself. You're proving to yourself that you can't be trusted. And once you lose trust in yourself, every trade becomes heavier, every decision more stressful, every mistake harder to recover from. This is why some traders spiral out of control. Not because the market is cruel, but because they've lost faith in their own ability to stay disciplined. Think about it like this. Imagine you had a business partner who constantly broke promises. One day he says, "I'll handle the expenses." The next day, he spends money recklessly. The day after, he swears he'll never do it again, only to repeat the same mistake. How long before you stop trusting him? Now here's the truth. You are that business partner. You're in a partnership with yourself. And every time you break discipline, you weaken that partnership. Every time you keep discipline, you strengthen it. This is why discipline feels so heavy in trading. It's not just about rules, it's about trust. It's about whether you can count on yourself when it matters most. So let me bring this closer to home. The next time you feel tempted to break a rule, stop. Take a breath. Ask yourself, do I want the short-term relief of giving in, or do I want the long-term pride of staying disciplined? Because every time you choose discipline, you're not just protecting your account. You're building a trader that can last. And here's the truth. The market rewards patience. It rewards self-control. It rewards the trader who doesn't fall for the bait of every emotional impulse. The undisciplined may win today, but they'll lose tomorrow. The disciplined may lose today, but they'll win over the long run. So when you feel that battle raging inside you, the fear, the greed, the impatience, the ego, remember this. The enemy isn't the market. The enemy is inside you. And the only weapon strong enough to win that battle is discipline. This is the core of what separates the 90% from the 10%. Not intelligence, not strategy, not luck, discipline. And in the next part of our journey, we're going to go even deeper. Because even seasoned professionals, traders with years of experience, sometimes fall victim to this same trap. The difference is what they do next. And that's what we'll uncover in the following section. But before we move on, let me remind you, if this is resonating with you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Share this with a fellow trader who keeps blaming their strategy when deep down, they know the real issue is discipline. Because once you see this truth, you can never trade the same way again. Most traders think discipline is a beginner's problem. They tell themselves, once I've got more experience, more capital, more knowledge, then I'll be disciplined. Then I'll have control. But here's the shocking reality. Even professionals with decades of experience and millions or billions under management can fall apart the exact same way you do. Lack of discipline doesn't care how much money you've made. It doesn't care how many books you've read. It doesn't care how smart you are. If you slip, it will find you. Let me prove it. Back in the late 1990s, a fund called Long-Term Capital Management, LTCM, collapsed. This wasn't some rookie outfit. This was a fund run by Nobel Prize winners. Some of the smartest financial minds on the planet. They had complex models, advanced risk systems, and resources you and I could only dream of. Yet within months, they lost billions and needed a bailout to prevent a global financial crisis. Why? Because they believed they were smarter than the market. They doubled down on losses. They ignored their own risk protocols. They let ego override discipline. The same mistakes a retail trader makes when moving a stop loss or over-leveraging, just on a larger scale. Fast forward to 2021. The Archegos Capital blow-up. Bill Huang, a billionaire with years of experience, took reckless positions using excessive leverage. When the trades turned against him, the losses cascaded into one of the largest margin calls in history, wiping out tens of billions of dollars. Again, not because he didn't know what he was doing, not because he didn't have access to data or strategy. It was because discipline broke down. These stories should shake you to your core, because they prove something crucial. Discipline is not optional. It doesn't matter if you're trading a $500 account from your bedroom or managing billions for a hedge fund. The rules of discipline apply equally. The moment you think you're above them is the moment the market humbles you. And this is why discipline is so powerful. It's the great equalizer. A disciplined small trader can survive and thrive, while an undisciplined billionaire can lose everything. That's the raw truth of the market. Now, let's zoom out and ask, why do even professionals fail at discipline? It comes down to the same enemies you face: fear, greed, impatience, and ego, only magnified by size and pressure. A professional might feel pressure from investors. You feel pressure from yourself. A professional might overleverage to keep up with performance expectations. You might overleverage to make back yesterday's loss. The emotions are the same. The stakes may be different, but the psychology is identical. And this is why so many traders keep chasing strategies. They think discipline is easy, so the only missing ingredient must be some secret method. But the truth is flipped. Strategies are easy. Discipline is hard. That's why professionals fail, not because they don't know enough, but because they underestimate how fragile discipline is. Here's another angle to consider. Imagine two professional traders. Trader X has been around for 20 years. He's seen booms, crashes, bubbles, and bear markets. Trader Y is newer but brilliant, armed with fresh algorithms and cutting-edge strategies. At first, Trader Y outperforms. He rides a hot market with incredible returns. But when the market shifts, he refuses to adapt. He clings to his system, driven by ego. His losses pile up. Trader X, on the other hand, leans on his discipline. He cuts positions, reduces risk, survives the downturn, and waits patiently for opportunities. A year later, Trader Y is gone. Trader X is still standing. What kept Trader X alive wasn't superior intelligence. It wasn't a better system. It was discipline. Now think about this. How many traders have you seen online flashing results, showing off profits, bragging about massive wins? And how many of them are still around 5 years later? Very few. That's not an accident. The market is a filter. It weeds out those who rely on brilliance without discipline. It keeps only those who can stick to rules, survive losses, and stay grounded. And here's the part most people miss. Discipline isn't just about following rules when things are going badly. It's about following rules when things are going well. Because success can be just as dangerous as failure. Success feeds ego. It whispers, "You're untouchable now. You don't need to follow the rules anymore." That's exactly what happened with LTCM. That's what happened with Archegos. And that's what happens to countless traders who hit a winning streak, only to give it all back because they abandoned discipline in their moment of pride. This is why discipline is not a stage you graduate from. It's not something you eventually outgrow. It's something you carry for life, no matter how advanced you become. You don't get to stop practicing discipline just because you're experienced. In fact, the longer you trade, the more important discipline becomes, because the risks grow with your capital. So the next time you think, "I'll be disciplined when I have more experience," remember this. Experience without discipline is a ticking time bomb. Knowledge without discipline is dangerous. Size without discipline is catastrophic. And this is why discipline beats strategy every time. Because strategy is temporary. It can fail, it can stop working, it can lose its edge. But discipline? Discipline is permanent. Discipline is what keeps you alive long enough to find another strategy. Discipline is what makes sure one bad day doesn't turn into a career-ending disaster. So here's the lesson. Don't envy the professional trader with complex systems and big capital. Envy the professional who has mastered discipline. Because that trader will still be here decades from now, long after others have burned out. As we move forward, I want you to carry this truth with you. Discipline isn't just for beginners. It's the foundation of survival for every trader, at every level. And in the next section, we'll uncover a surprising paradox. The way discipline transforms trading is not by giving you more, but by demanding less. And why, when it comes to discipline, simplicity will always beat complexity. But before we go there, pause for a second. If this lesson about professionals resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how far this message travels. And share this with someone who believes they'll be disciplined later, because later might be too late. When most traders hear the word discipline, they imagine restriction, rules, boundaries, limits. They think discipline is about doing more, studying harder, researching deeper, watching more charts, mastering more setups. But here's the paradox that few realize. Discipline doesn't thrive in complexity. It thrives in simplicity. The more complicated your trading becomes, the more decisions you're forced to make. And with each new decision, you open the door to hesitation, doubt, or impulse. Complexity multiplies opportunities for mistakes. Simplicity eliminates them. Think about it this way. If you have 10 different strategies, 20 different indicators, and 50 different rules, you're not disciplined, you're overwhelmed. Your mind becomes a battlefield of conflicting signals. And when the pressure rises, you'll abandon the system altogether because your brain is screaming for relief. On the other hand, if you have one simple setup, one risk rule, one execution process, discipline becomes natural. You're not wrestling with 20 options. You're simply repeating what works over and over without debate. That's where discipline flourishes. Let me tell you a story. A trader I once coached, we'll call him Mark, was obsessed with strategy. He had a library of systems, from Elliott wave to Ichimoku to algorithmic backtests. His charts looked like a Christmas tree. He thought more information meant more control. But every time he sat at his desk, he was paralyzed. One indicator screamed buy. Another whispered sell. A third said wait. He'd hesitate, miss trades, or jump in too late. And when he did take trades, he couldn't stick to his rules because deep down, he didn't trust them. Finally, I told him, Mark, delete everything. Strip it down to one moving average, one price action setup, and one risk rule. Trade that for 3 months. He resisted. He said it felt too simple. But eventually, he gave in. And within weeks, something remarkable happened. He wasn't second-guessing anymore. He wasn't panicking mid-trade. He wasn't sabotaging his own stops. Because the simplicity gave him clarity. And that clarity gave him discipline. His results turned around. Not because his strategy was magical, but because his discipline finally had space to breathe. This is the paradox. The more you chase complexity, the more fragile your discipline becomes. The more you embrace simplicity, the stronger your discipline grows. And this isn't just true for traders. It's true for athletes, soldiers, and even monks. The greatest warriors in history didn't train with 50 weapons at once. They mastered a few, repeated them endlessly, and trusted them in battle. The greatest athletes don't obsess over hundreds of drills. They focus on fundamentals, drilled so deep they become muscle memory. And monks don't meditate with 20 different techniques. They master a few simple practices with absolute devotion. Trading is no different. The market doesn't reward the trader with the most complex system. It rewards the trader who can stay consistent under pressure. And consistency comes from simplicity. Let me ask you something. How many of your trading mistakes come from not knowing what to do, and how many come from knowing exactly what to do, but failing to do it? If you're honest, the answer is clear. Most mistakes aren't knowledge mistakes. They're discipline mistakes. And that's why traders chase complexity. It's an escape. It's easier to believe you need more information than to face the truth that you already know what to do, but aren't doing it. Complexity feels productive. Simplicity feels boring. But boredom is where discipline thrives. The most disciplined traders I know live boring trading lives. They don't chase every signal. They don't jump into every market. They wait. They watch. They repeat. Day after day, week after week. To an outsider, it looks dull. But to their account, it's life-saving. This is the real edge of discipline. Not doing more, but doing less better. Now here's a practical way to test this for yourself. For the next 30 days, strip your trading down to its core. Pick one setup you trust. Pick one risk rule you believe in. And commit to doing nothing else. No new indicators. No new systems. Just pure simplicity. Watch how your stress melts away. Watch how your confidence builds. Watch how your discipline strengthens. Not because you've learned something new, but because you've finally stopped drowning in noise. You see, traders often think discipline is about willpower, about forcing themselves to obey. But willpower is weak. It fades. It cracks under pressure. True discipline is not about fighting temptation. It's about designing your trading so temptation never shows up. And simplicity is the design. Imagine 2 paths. Path 1 is a jungle of indicators, signals, and strategies. Every step you take, you're pulled in different directions. You waste energy, you make mistakes, you get lost. Path 2 is a clear trail, straight and simple. You know exactly where to step. No confusion. No noise. Just clarity. Which path makes discipline easier? The answer is obvious. And here's the kicker. Simplicity not only strengthens discipline, it actually makes you more profitable. Because profits don't come from catching every move. They come from catching the right moves and holding steady when the noise tries to shake you out. Simplicity sharpens your focus, so you see those right moves clearly. So the paradox is this. The less you do, the more disciplined you become. The simpler your system, the stronger your execution. And the more boring your trading feels, the more profitable it likely is. In the next section, we're going to tackle something even deeper. The invisible war inside your mind. Because discipline doesn't just live in your rules or your system, it lives in the way you think. And unless you learn to master the psychology of discipline, even the simplest system will collapse under emotional pressure. But before we move there, let me pause for a second. If this message about simplicity hit you, if you realized you might be overcomplicating your trading, do me a favor. Drop a comment below right now with the word simplicity. Let me know you're ready to strip it back and embrace what truly builds discipline. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and share this with another trader who's drowning in noise. You could be the one who saves them from years of pain. The greatest battles in trading aren't fought on charts. They're not won or lost in candlesticks, indicators, or strategies. The real war is invisible. It's fought in silence, inside your own head. And discipline is the weapon you need to survive it. Think about your last losing trade. The chart didn't destroy you. The market didn't reach through the screen and take your money. What destroyed you was the voice in your mind, the one that whispered, just move the stop a little. Hold on, maybe it'll turn around. Double the position, make it back. That voice is the enemy. And unless you learn how to fight it, no strategy in the world will save you. Here's the brutal truth. Discipline isn't about the market. It's about mastering yourself. The market doesn't care if you're afraid. It doesn't care if you're greedy. It doesn't care if you're desperate. It will test you, push you, and expose every weakness you have. If you break, the market doesn't even notice. But your account does. Let's break this down. The human mind is wired for survival, not for trading. In nature, if something threatens you, you fight or run. In trading, those instincts are disastrous. Fear makes you cut winners too early. Greed makes you hold losers too long. Impatience makes you jump into trades that aren't there. Ego makes you risk more than you should. These instincts once kept our ancestors alive. But in trading, they kill us. This is the invisible war. Biology versus discipline. Nature versus skill. If you trade on instinct, you will lose. If you trade with discipline, you survive. Let me share an example. A trader named Sarah had a system with a proven 60% win rate. On paper, she should have been consistently profitable. But in reality, her account kept bleeding. Why? Because every time she lost 2 trades in a row, her mind would panic. She'd tell herself, this system isn't working. I need to change something. She'd abandon her plan, chase random setups, and dig a deeper hole. Her system didn't fail her, her discipline did. Now here's the twist. Once she learned to master her thoughts, to recognize fear as just noise, her results flipped. The system hadn't changed. The market hadn't changed. The only thing that changed was her discipline. She stopped reacting to her biology. She started responding with control. This is what discipline really means. Not the absence of emotion, but the ability to act despite emotion. Fear will still whisper. Greed will still shout. Ego will still tempt you. Discipline is the voice that says, no, I stick to the plan. And here's the secret. Discipline is not about willpower. If you rely only on willpower, you will lose. Why? Because willpower is like a muscle. It gets tired. It weakens under stress. That's why after a long day, you find yourself eating junk food or scrolling endlessly. You've run out of willpower. The same thing happens in trading. If your discipline depends only on willpower, the market will exhaust you. So what's the solution? Systems, habits, structure. You don't fight the war in the heat of battle. You prepare before the battle begins. You write your rules. You set your stops. You size your risk. You build habits so strong that when emotions rise, your default action is discipline, not chaos. This is why military training is so intense. Soldiers aren't trained to rely on willpower in combat. They're trained to build habits so automatic that when chaos hits, their bodies move with discipline without thinking. Trading is no different. The market is your battlefield. Your rules are your training, and your habits are your survival. Here's something most traders never realize. Discipline is not about controlling every thought. You can't. Thoughts will come. Fear will come. Greed will come. Discipline is about controlling your actions despite your thoughts. It's about saying, yes, I feel fear, but I'll still follow my stop. Or, yes, I feel greed, but I'll still exit where I planned. That's real strength. Now let's make this practical. Start paying attention to the war in your head. When you feel the urge to break a rule, don't just act, pause. Name the emotion. Say it out loud if you have to. This is fear. This is greed. This es ego. Once you name it, you separate yourself from it. You stop being the emotion and start observing it. And once you observe it, you can choose discipline instead. This is a skill. And like any skill, it takes practice. The more you practice naming and resisting emotions, the stronger your discipline becomes. Eventually, the urges will still come, but they won't control you. You'll watch them rise, watch them fall, and still act with discipline. That's when you know you're winning the invisible war. But let me warn you, this war never ends. Don't expect to graduate from discipline. Don't expect to one day wake up and never feel fear, greed, or impatience again. That's a fantasy. The greatest traders in history still feel these emotions. The difference is, they've built discipline so strong that emotions don't dictate their actions. And this is where most traders fail. They think discipline is something you master once and then forget. No, discipline is a practice. Every day you sit down to trade, you're stepping onto the battlefield. Every trade is a test. Every moment is a choice. So remember this, you are not fighting the market. You are fighting yourself. The market is neutral. It doesn't care about your feelings, your dreams, or your fears. It just reflects your level of discipline. And if you don't master the invisible war inside your mind, the market will expose you every single time. In the next section, we're going to go even deeper into how discipline works in real trades. I'll show you the exact moments where traders crack, why they give in, and how to build the kind of self-control that survives under pressure. Because knowing the war exists isn't enough. You need weapons to win it. But before we continue, pause for a second. If this invisible war resonated with you, if you realize your biggest enemy is not the market, but yourself, drop a comment below saying, I see the enemy. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this video with another trader who needs to hear this. Trust me, they're fighting the same war, even if they don't know it yet. Let's get practical. We've talked about the invisible war inside your mind. Now let's put it under the microscope and see how discipline actually plays out in a real trade. Because the difference between success and failure often comes down to just a few seconds, a choice made in the heat of the moment. Picture this. Trader A sits down at his desk. He sees a setup forming. His system says wait for confirmation. But the candle looks strong, and the voice in his head says, jump in now, you don't want to miss this move. He clicks buy early. The market spikes a little higher, giving him a quick rush of confidence. But then it pulls back, just as his rules predicted it would. He panics. He moves his stop lower. The loss grows. Instead of taking it, he doubles his position to average down. Now he's not just breaking one rule, he's breaking all of them. Minutes later, the trade collapses. What should have been a small, controlled loss turns into a disaster. His account bleeds. His confidence dies. And worst of all, he knows deep down it wasn't the market that beat him, it was himself. Now let's replay the same scenario with Trader B. Same setup. Same system. Same temptation. The candle looks strong, and the voice whispers, jump in now. But Trader B has trained for this. He recognizes the voice for what it is, impatience. He pauses. He breathes. He waits for confirmation, just like his plan says. The market pulls back, exactly as expected. Then the signal confirms. He enters. His stop is set before he even clicks the button. The trade moves against him briefly, but he doesn't flinch. His stop is where it belongs. The market recovers, moves in his favor, and he exits at his planned target. Not a huge win. Not a glamorous win. But a disciplined win. A repeatable win. Now ask yourself, which trader are you, honestly? Because here's the hard truth. The difference between Trader A and Trader B isn't strategy. They had the same plan. The difference is discipline. Trader A sabotaged himself. Trader B protected himself. And over hundreds of trades, that small difference compounds into everything. Trader A blows up. Trader B builds wealth. This is the anatomy of discipline. It's not about winning every trade. It's about following your rules on every trade. And when you zoom out, that's what defines your career. Let me share something personal. When I first started, I was Trader A. I had strategies, setups, even mentorship. But discipline? None. I chased trades. I ignored stops. I risked too much. And every time I lost, I'd tell myself the same lie. I just need a better system. Years passed before I realized the truth. It wasn't my system. It was me. And when I finally accepted that, everything changed. I stripped back my trading. I simplified my rules. I built habits around discipline. And slowly, I transformed from Trader A into Trader B. Not perfect, not immune to mistakes, but consistent, controlled, disciplined. And that's why I can say this with full conviction. Discipline beats strategy every single time. Because here's the final paradox. Discipline is the real strategy. Every system, every setup, every indicator is useless without it. Discipline is what turns a plan into profit. Discipline is what keeps you alive long enough to win. Discipline is the foundation every great trader stands on. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this challenge. For the next 30 days, stop hunting for new strategies. Stop adding new indicators. Stop chasing complexity. Instead, pick one system you trust. Set one risk rule. And make discipline your only focus. Every time you feel tempted to break a rule, remind yourself, this is the war. This is the test. This is where traders are made or destroyed. And choose discipline. Because if you can win that choice, even 80% of the time, you're already ahead of most traders out there. And let me say this clearly. If you're struggling right now, if you feel like you're stuck in cycles of sabotage, you're not broken. You don't need to be smarter. You don't need the perfect strategy. You just need discipline. That's it. That's the edge you've been missing. So don't wait until tomorrow. Don't tell yourself you'll fix discipline later. Start today. Start now. Because every undisciplined trade costs you more than money. It costs you time, confidence, and progress. But every disciplined choice builds the trader you're meant to become. And if this message hit home, if you finally see why discipline is the true key to profitability, then do me a favor. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing traders from all around the world building this community together. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Because chances are, they're fighting the same war you are. Discipline beats strategy every time. And the sooner you believe that, the sooner you'll stop trading like everyone else and start trading like the trader you were meant to be.